Welcome back, everyone, to Hacker Heroes episode 2. And in today's episode, we're talking to Katie Paxton Fear, who is also known under the name Inside of PhD. So let's go and check it out. Hi, Katie. Thank you very much for being on the show with us today. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Tell us a little bit about Katie Paxton Fear, or Inside a PhD, which is, I guess, a name a lot of people use, right?
Yeah. So my name is Katie. I am in ascending order. I am a lecturer. I am an application security engineer. I am a hacker, and when I have free time, I also make YouTube videos teaching other people how to get into bug bounties and hacking and all kinds of web things. My videos are far more on the lecture side of things rather than a fun video. But it means that I'm trying to give people who wouldn't normally have access to it a bit more of a formal education and the feeling of being in a classroom. And I've been making videos now since 2019. My first one was recorded on a potato. Please don't watch it. It's so bad. The quality is disastrous. And yeah, I've made videos and everything from finding bugs to tool sets to more what you might think of like mindset, how to stay organized, how to take notes. So I've made a ton of videos. I think I've got over 50, nearly 60 now, which is a bit kind of whoa to think about now.
You cover a lot of different topics. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's basically what interests me.
And that's good. I mean, always do what is fun to you, right? I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
We're obviously as we are Integrity, we are always interested in hearing about bug bounty. So a question to you I'm having, and as a personal interest of mine, is when was the first time that you heard about the term bug bounty?
So I was in university for doing my undergraduate degree, not my PhD. So this was about 6 years ago probably, and I knew someone in university called Ruby, and there was this cybersecurity summit the university had put in. I didn't go because I couldn't afford to go, but he went and he loved it. He loved security, and he was genius level, serious genius. And I remember him coming back that next year. It was my second year of university, and him talking about bug bounties. So I knew what the concept was, even 5 years ago. I couldn't have told you the companies that offer it. I couldn't have told you what kind of vulnerabilities all that mainly affects web, but I did know about it. And me and Ruby, we stayed friends our entire time at university, and we graduated together. So by the time I finished, I did know what bug bounties were. I knew that he was making bank from them, and it was like a rumor going around, oh yeah, he's rich just because he makes money off of hacking companies. Not sure how true that is looking back, but that's kind of my first experience with bug bounties in terms of when I found out they were a thing.
Right. I mean, 5 years is quite a long time ago, actually. I guess a lot of our watches, they only have been in the bug bounty world for a year or maybe even 2, but yeah, 5 years is a lot. And then speaking of bug bounties, do you remember what the first bug was that you handed in to any program?
I don't think I could forget that experience. I was really fortunate to be able to go to a one of Integrity's competitors' live hacking events that was hosted in London, and a friend, my friend Ruby, was there, and it was oh, here's a local mentorship applications going around some of the community group. So it wasn't just, I didn't just get invited because I was friends with people. It was this mentorship application that I filled out, and I said, no thanks, hacking sounds really hard. And I almost didn't go. And it wasn't until I got peer pressured into it and my friends were like, oh yeah, we're doing a little meetup. There'll be other people that we all knew from uni going. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll apply, but I won't get accepted. And I got accepted. And I brought on a colleague of mine who didn't go to the same university as me, but who was a PhD student with me. And I was like, hey, we're not going to find anything, but do you want to come do some bug bounty hunting with me, I guess? And she was really into it. She loved the idea of doing penetration testing and bug bounty hunting. I was very lukewarm. Like, I've got to say that I was not one of those people like super into bug bounties. I was very much a, it sounds like fun. So I got there. We had like a half an hour, here's how to set up Burp. I'd never heard of Burp before. Had a like 30-minute here's how to do recon. Never done recon before. Didn't even really know what I was doing. But while I was there, I found my first bug. It was like not a very complex bug. I mainly noticed it because it was an API and it was a post request. And for people, not a post, a put request. But people who kind of develop APIs as a developer will know that actually finding a put or a delete request is actually quite rare because browsers don't have a default implementation for handling them. You kind of have to handle them yourself. So a lot of the times developers just don't bother. They just use post and get. And puts tend to come in when API endpoints are automatically generated. So when I was finding this, I saw this like put request. And I'm like, that's really weird. Like I looked through the rest of the chat traffic and I was like, oh, okay, those are post and that's a get, but this is a put. So why is this a put? It was doing the kind of normal thing and I started playing around with it and I was able to remove the cookies and it still worked and I found my first IDOR. And then one of the issues was the ID. So I wasn't able to figure out how to generate that ID easily. So I spent the rest of the time there like trying to like increase the severity of it by trying to find this ID. And I realized at the same time that I could put in any number I wanted. Unfortunately, it was a price. So I could change the price to be $1 million or negative $1 million or letters and break the application. And that was really cool. And I found it literally by accident as I was just putting in really big numbers to test with. And it was a complete mistake. So at that time, I had no idea what I was doing. I accidentally found 2 bugs and I had no idea how to write a report. I had 30 minutes to write the report. So I was like desperately trying to type up this report, having no idea what reports look like. I didn't know what impact was. I didn't know like what steps of reproduction were. Like I could kind of guess, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And it came down to the wire. Like I'm talking the last 30 seconds. And I was shaking. I was like, oh my God, I can't, like, no joke. And then even my mentor, and she had been like hacking for years. She worked at the company, like super, like big on like hacking in general. And she was getting stressed as well. Like the both of us were like internally screaming about this report. And I remember handing it in and just shaking like mad, like uncontrollable shakes. Then, like a few hours later, somebody from the company came across and said, "You're getting $1,000 bounty." And I'll never forget that moment. Like even now, that was like in 2019, so that was like 2 years ago. I found my first bug. I will never forget that moment and that feeling of like internal screaming. Literally all I could do was scream inside my head. It was amazing. It was such an experience.
This is definitely, I guess, the most intense first bug story that I've heard so far. Like a lot of people have really good stories, but this is like being invited to a live event, being like a super massive rush, and then like getting $1,000 and then either that's incredible. And are you a millionaire right now? Because you were saying you could set it to negative 1 million.
Not quite a millionaire. Not even close to a millionaire. But bad. You know what? I spent half of that bounty on knitting yarn. So. Save one half, spend the rest.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy. So Katie, I know that you're a busy person. You already mentioned your YouTube channel, but you also do a lot of other things. I'm wondering, how many hours do you spend on bug bounties nowadays?
It's a really good question. It basically varies based on my interest level. I'm not that much motivated by money in general, because, I have a job and, extra money is nice, but it's not really the main driver for me. I really like the challenge. And I'm the kind of person who will spend, they'll get an invite or they'll find a program and they'll be like, that sounds so cool. I am going to hack on this nonstop for 3 days. But equally, I spend quite a lot of time not really hacking because, I have a lot on my plate.
Right.
So it tends to be a few hours a month, usually in kind of one go. Like, I'll spend a weekend hacking. And it tends to be stuff that really interests me. So things like right now, working on kind of machine learning bug bounties. So really kind of get a speciality. I really like mobile apps. I really like kind of interesting web apps. Yeah. So it's really what interests me. I have to receive an invite or see a program and go, oh yeah, I want to hack that.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Like if it's something you cannot really relate with, then it's also hard to hack in it. Let's talk a little bit about your YouTube channel that you've already mentioned. So when exactly was it again that you started it? I think you said 2 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah. So after I'd been to that live event, I actually was very fortunate to get invited to another live event as a mentee that was in Vegas while DEF CON was running. And I said yes, of course. And when I was there, I met with some of the other mentees. I had a little bit more experience with hacking at that point than some of the other mentees. And I realized that one of the hardest things for the other mentees was how to actually use Burp. Burp is an incredible tool, but oh my God, does no one explain how to use it properly. And there's a knowing what each tab does and knowing what each tab should be used for. And I really realized that, hang on, I struggled with that. They struggled with that. We cannot be the only people who struggle with that. So my first video I ever made was, here's what every tab in Burp does and here's how you can use it. And here's how to use it effectively. And here's some potential use cases. And then from that, I realized, hang on, no one's explained kind of how to get your first bug either. People explain what a bug is. People at that point explained how they found bugs. But there was nothing to bridge the gap between I have no idea what I'm doing and finding your first bug. And then I realized, well, I want to make videos on that. So then I started making videos on that. And I think I released 3 in one day, and that was a terrible idea. Terrible for YouTube growth. But yeah, since then I've been making videos. Like the Finding Your First Bug series was directly related to my experience in struggling to find material for that level I was at, and seeing that if I'm struggling with it, I can't be the only person. I'm really using it to kind of increase my learning. And I'm I did a PhD, I've done a PhD now. By the time I was doing my PhD, I'd had teacher training. I delivered lectures, delivered talks, and I was like, okay, I know how to do this. Slideshow.
You just said something over there, which brings me straight to my next question. Your PhD. Your channel is called Insider PhD. Where is this coming from, and what is Insider PhD standing for?
So first off is that I was doing a PhD. I've now finished my PhD. And I could tell the story actually of how I ended up doing a PhD. So I used to work as a developer and data scientist for a utility broker. And I realized that one day going to lunch, I hated my job. I was like, my job is challenging, my job pays me well, but dear God, was it draining my energy every single day. And I was like, I'm doing a PhD. At the time, my company had offered to sponsor me doing a PhD if I just waited 6 more months. And I was like, nope, I'm leaving now. Unfortunately, PhD entries are in September. And we were in like November, December. They'd closed. Every PhD was gone, apart from one. And that was understanding insider threats with natural language processing. I never intended to get into cybersecurity. I was very much a kind of data person. I was like machine learning, natural language processing, data science, all that sort of stuff is like my background and where I really wanted to go with my career until I ended up doing my PhD. Because, like I said, I had no choice. That was the only PhD that was available. And that's where my name came in. So insider as in insider threats. PhD as in the academic qualification. Though I liked it as well because insider kind of sounds like inside a.
Yeah.
And I was like inside a PhD, inside a PhD. Though I did also realize that shortly after that was going to be difficult to tell people how to like spell. So I didn't think that far ahead because I always get called like inside a PHP. Or inside a PHP. So yeah. I mean,
Okay.
there was some branding considerations like before I even made videos, but not that much.
Yeah, but it's definitely a name that I guess a lot of people recognize. I guess if you ask somebody right now who's inside a PhD, everybody would know, and you obviously have a really huge following on YouTube. Another question that I have is, I checked your YouTube videos, and I don't know if you know, but the video with the most views on your channel is called Choosing Your Target. And I'm wondering, why do you think that, first of all, this video is so popular, and why do you think that people are having so much troubles with choosing the right target?
I think it comes really to two things. One is that no one really talks about how to do that part. A lot of like the kind of people who write write-ups, being people that are very successful, don't really talk about how they actually chose that target in the first place. They kind of just skip to the hacking part. And there's many reasons why. That could be because maybe it was just a private invite that they got given. That could be because they didn't really put that much thought into it. But it's one of the biggest questions new hackers have. It's like, well, how do I actually pick what to hack? How do I know I'm hacking the right thing? And pro hackers will often say, it doesn't really matter. Because one thing to note about like the reason why bug bounties can be so challenging when you first get started is because there's an element of luck. People will say there's no element of luck, but that's because they've gone to the part where the element of skill is much higher. And I think about it like scales. Like, the more skill you get, the less luck is a factor. The less skills you have, the more luck is a factor. And the question is, how do you tip that luck scale in your favor when you just get started, when you're just starting out? And I think that that's a question a lot of kind of new hackers have that just doesn't really get answered very well by anybody. But then you can't really blame people because it's not like they're like just keeping like secrets.
Yeah, and it is the very first thing you gotta do, right? I mean, without a target, you cannot start hacking. So it's great to cover that as well, because it's like if you take the entire stretch from like starting to handing in a submission and getting your reward, you gotta pick a target first. It's there, so it's good to talk about it. One question that I have is, with your YouTube channel, what has been the biggest surprise that has happened to you because of your channel?
Oh, because of my channel. Two answers to this. So the first one is that I got any kind of traction at all. I 100% expected to get like no subscribers and to just make those first few videos for me and for me to improve my learning. I never expected people to actually watch and kind of say, this helped me find my first bug. Personally, though, I think it's really, my job. And one of the reasons why I was hired at the university to do lecturing, and it's quite unusual to go from a PhD straight to a lectureship role. People in the US will know it as assistant professor. And usually you have to do something called a postdoc. And what that is, it's just like a kind of like 1 year to 3 year post where you do research under somebody else. It's very similar to doing a PhD. But I went straight to lecturer partly because of my YouTube videos. And part of the reason why I work at Bugcrowd now is because of my YouTube videos and my content and being able to kind of explain things to people. So I really think, it's been amazing for my own career development in a way I could never have possibly predicted 100%.
Right. Yeah, so it was there we actually share the same story, I guess, because the reason I'm working for Integrity right now is also because of my YouTube channel. I do have a question. You're obviously from the UK, so I do have a question in regards to where you're living. And I'm wondering, what is the general perception of hacking, computer hacking in the UK? What do people think if they hear that term?
My mom constantly tells me to not break the law. She doesn't really understand that it's not breaking the law. Though I used to go to a knitting club. So the place where I did my PhD is quite a small town. Well, it's a large town, but it is still a town. So we didn't really have a tech scene like at all. We did have a knitting club. So I went to knitting club kind of as I was getting into Bug Bounty for the first time, and I was telling them about it. And to give an impression of what knitting club looks like, it's a bunch of women over the age of 50. I went there and instantly half the average age, talking about the nice booties they made for their grandchildren. And you'd expect that this demographic would be like, ooh, hackers are bad. But when I explained it to them and sat them down and was like, oh yeah, here's what I do. I hack companies and they pay me for it. And they were like drilling into it. They loved it. They were like, we want to be the hacking grannies. So, I think the perception of hacking, I think is still a little bit negative in the UK, but I do think it's getting better over time. Like, especially when I've spoken to people, they think what I do is really cool. So right. I'll take it.
Yeah, so I guess it takes a lot of educating people what ethical hacking is, because if you leave out the word ethical, people usually still think it's something bad. But we have to turn it around. We have to turn it around in a way that also hacking, only the word hacking becomes something good and not something people think of like
we don't
black
have
hoodies and bad people. Yeah. But we will eventually get there. I'm pretty sure about that. All right. So back to your hacking career. You were saying before that you have a software development background. And some hackers do, others don't. But those who do, I'm always asking, how is that helping you in your hacking career? Is that helping a lot or not at all?
Oh, it helps me a ton. I kind of describe it as being able to like see through the kind of code, because I often think when I hack, if I was making this, how would I structure it? Like, how would I have programmed this page? How would I have really made a mistake here? So for me, I think programming helps a lot in the way I hack specifically. I don't think that always applies to everybody though. I think there's also quite a lot of power in not having those preconceptions about how a bug should work and instead focus on kind of what's in front of you. So I don't think there's necessarily like a right or wrong answer to does software engineering or software development help you. I do think it helped me though. Like for sure it helped me get into, hacking on my first day. Like I think that's very hard to do if you've got no background in software engineering, because I at least knew a little bit about how the web was designed and how you actually make applications for the web.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's definitely something people should look into, I guess, if they don't have it. But if you don't have time for that, you can still start hacking without it.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is it if you sit down and you hack along on a bug bounty program or whatever you're working on right now, what is it exactly that excites you the most?
So I always think of myself as like a Sherlock Holmes-esque character. Like I really like the whole finding a lead and then chasing it down, see where it ends up. Like, I think the process of, exploitation point to exploitation is really enjoyable. But I think what really excites me the most at the moment is seeing how everyone who follows me is getting success. Because I've always been more of an educator. Like, there's obvious, I'm doing did a PhD. Like, I'm obviously more into the kind of teaching side of things. So it really does excite me to see people telling me that they found their first bug, and my videos really helped them in that. And I was, a part of their success, albeit a very small one. And there's a lot of personal work that goes into finding your first bug that isn't just watching my videos. But, hearing about people finding their first bug and being successful, it makes me so excited about it makes me feel like what I'm doing matters, and also that what I'm doing is actually providing some good for other people. So that ends up exciting me far more than actually sometimes finding bugs does.
Yeah, and I can totally understand why. If you were just speaking about the newcomers and the people watching your content going for the first bug, if you have so asking you right now, what is the first thing you do when you approach a new target, and what would be your number one advice to new hackers if you can only give away one? So what's the number one advice you would give away?
So the first thing I do when I get started on a program is press all the buttons. I want to find out what things, I want to see, can I change my account name? Can I change my email address? Can I change my password? What's this functionality? What does it do? It's always press the buttons. And on top of that, my number one advice is don't get caught up in recon. Recon is really popular right now. And a lot of people have the experience of, I've done recon, what next? Because it can be quite challenging to go from recon to actual exploitation. I'd say, don't get caught up in that. Do basic recon to find things like increase your attack surface, but focus on those kind of manual exploitation bugs, because the top hackers are already doing the recon part, and it's going to be very difficult to compete with them. However, it's going to be much easier to compete with people who are doing that kind of manual exploitation. So don't get caught up in recon, and press all the buttons whenever you start working on a target. They're very related. Pressing all the buttons is my recon strategy.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So for recon, and I mean, you were just saying not just do recon, but you gotta do the actual hacking. But for recon, you need tools, and we obviously have Burp Suite that everybody's using, which is an intercepting proxy, and there's a lot of other tools out there that people use. But what is your number one tool that you would recommend to people to use except for Burp?
So apart from Burp and your brain, which I think are the two most important tools, I think one problem with a lot of recon at the moment is it's kind of done without a lot of thought. So people will just run recon scripts. They won't necessarily think about what they're trying to accomplish with it, or how they're actually going to end up processing the data afterwards. So I'd say one of my favorite tools is first a programming language. So Python, for me, I end up writing a line R. If I had to pick a tool that you could just run and go, right now, Kite Runner is one of my favorite API hacking tools, because it is so good at finding API endpoints, ones you didn't even expect to be able to find. So I really like Kite Runner at the moment, but I will say that I think that being able to program is really, really strong tool for actually being able to not just rely on what other people have created, but actually start to make your own tools that fit your methodology and your way of working.
Yeah, totally. So to everyone watching right now, learn Python or Rust or whatever you feel most comfortable with, but definitely learn a programming language. All right, I do have a couple of fun questions for you right now. Are you ready for those?
Yep.
So those are would you rather questions. And the first one that I want to ask you is, would you rather choose a bug bounty program with a very tiny scope or a really large scope?
difficult to say because I think it really depends on the application. Though I would probably prefer to hack on a smaller scope because I know other people don't like it, and I think there might be like less competition.
Yeah, that's a good call. So you might have higher chances of finding anything because a lot of people would just leave it out. All right. To the next one. And I guess this is going to be tricky for you, so I'm excited about that answer. Would you rather search for IDOs, and we have heard that your first bug was one, or for API vulnerabilities?
APIs have so many vulnerabilities in, and API security is just not considered in the way it should be. It's often considered an afterthought in development, and people expect like tools, for example, middleware, which is a type of software that sits between the request and the response, to handle things like XSS, but also things like IDORs and authentication and access control issues, and it's just not implemented correctly. And I think there's a lot of scope in APIs to find some really interesting bugs.
Okay. All right, to the next one. Would you rather want to be listed in Facebook's or in Google's Hall of Fame?
Google, though that's a reluctant answer.
Can you explain why?
I would much rather be helping out smaller organizations than going for like massive multinational corporations that have too much money. As much as I like taking away the money from them, I feel like there's a lot of good that can be done in smaller companies because they need the help more, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, up to the next one. Would you rather try to hack a car or an airplane?
That's a really good question. Aeroplane. My brother is an aerospace engineer, and he does like rockets and stuff. But I'd love to flex on him about hacking an aeroplane. That'll be, the look on his face. Yeah, so purely to flex on my brother.
So you could just team up with your brother and teach him hacking, and he teaches you all the airplane stuff, right?
No, I'm more thinking hack an airplane and be like, haha, I hacked an airplane.
You would definitely be all over the news if you do that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, final question on those ones. Would you rather try to teach your mom how to hack or a class of 10-year-olds? A school class of 10-year-olds?
I've already taught my mum how to hack, so I have to be the 10-year-olds because, my mum's a bit of a technophobe, but teaching her to hack was an experience and a half because she wouldn't touch the computer. So I guess, I've taken on the challenge of teaching my mum how to hack. Now it's time to go teach a class of 10-year-olds.
Yeah, and the 10-year-olds are the future, right? I think the pupils nowadays, they're super smart and they will probably pick up all the stuff that you teach them straight away. I mean, those are digital natives, right? So
oh, yeah, for sure.
They know what to do. All right. Let's wrap this up. Katie, do you have any final words, any shout outs, anything you want to tell our audience?
Yes. To everyone who is stuck finding their first bug and ends up doom scrolling through social media and feeling kind of bad because of others' success, don't do that. You'll find your first bug when it's kind of time. And it might take a while before it is time, but you'll find it. Just keep on being persistent. Don't end up kind of getting caught up in the hype. Do your own thing. You got this.
You got this. That's a good one. All right. Thank you very much for
having me.
Being here today. And I will hopefully talk to you soon, somewhere in real at a conference or something like that.
Yes, for sure. All right. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks, Katie. Thank you once again, Katie, for being on the show with us today. I will link Katie's YouTube channel in the description down below so you folks can check it out and learn something new. And in the next episode, Hacker Heroes episode 3, we are going to talk to another exciting guest. And he's known for releasing a lot of really good tools that enable you to hack faster and better. And I'm speaking of Tom Nom Nom. So go check out the next episode right now. And in the meantime, subscribe in the top right corner. Talk to you soon.